Float the arms up and bend your right knee down, knee over ankle. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, sink down again. Reach the left hand back down the outside of the left leg. Then exhale, lift, straighten your right knee and reach the hand down towards the shin. Inhale, lift, bend your right knee, reach back. Inhale, lift. Exhale, take it down. Make sure you're pulling the flesh of both knees up. You can turn to look up to the ball, or you can keep the head facing the front. Lengthen your torso. Make sure you're drawing the belly in, drawing the shoulders away from your ears. And breathing in through the nose, lift. Bring yourself around to the other side, turning the right foot in, the left foot out, sinking down into the left leg. Inhale and lift yourself back up. Exhale down and hold it here. Check to make sure your knee is in line with your ankle, then reach the arm up, other hand down the leg. Inhale, lift, straighten your left leg and tip forward. Inhale, coming up and bending your left leg, reaching down the right leg, lifting up and down again. Ease into this triangle pose. You can turn to look up, you can look down, you can look forward. It's up to you. Make the posture work for you. You avoid working for the posture, and then come up. Turn all the way around now. Adjust your back foot slightly out, so it's like you're standing on train tracks. Bend your front knee and raise your arms overhead, then reach forward. Circle the arms around and lift back up, dropping your tailbone down, drawing your belly in. Arms overhead. Again, reach forward. Straighten the front knee, bring the hands down. Then take the ball behind your back. You can adjust your stride slightly. Circle the ball behind your back. You can either take hold of the ball or you can hold your elbow. Now lift up over the ball. Drop your shoulders and then tip forward, keeping the lift of the chest. Pulling the kneecaps up and dropping both hips down to face the floor. Inhaling through your nose, exhaling through your nose. Feeling a beautiful stretch down the back of your front leg, then lift up. Release the ball, turn to face the front, and we'll come all the way around to the other side. Adjust your feet so you're standing on train tracks. Bend your front knee, lift the arms up. Take your time to sit into this posture, lengthening your back leg. Now reach the arms forward. Circle them around, drop your tailbone and lift up. Again, reaching forward, around, and come back up. Straighten your front leg, then bring your hands around behind your back and circle them back to the front again. Inhale, take them behind your back. Take the ball or your elbows, lift up. Remember to shorten your stride if you need to. And then tipping forward. Feeling length from the crown of the head to the tailbone. Pressing the feet into the floor. Inhale, lift. Turn back to the front. 2 steps to bring your feet together. Inhale, lift the arms up overhead. Draw the flesh of the legs up. Press the heels down. Reach the little finger up to the ceiling. Open the arms out. Turning the hands. Lifting the arms up, sitting down in the legs. Drawing your shoulders away from your ears, lengthening your neck, dropping your tailbone down. Lift up and open. Turn to face the end of your mat. Lift the arms up overhead. Bend your knees, coming down. Hands to the floor. Let the back of your neck lengthen. Then step your feet out into a downward facing dog. Lift your tailbone up and then come forward. Take your chest over the ball, either on your knees or your toes. Then bend your elbows, lower your chest and sit yourself back into pose of the child. Coming up now, sit with your legs crossed, and you can either place the ball underneath your tailbone, using it as a prop, or you can take the ball between your hands. Aim to have your pelvis in a neutral position, with your ribs over your hips over your pubic bone, your shoulders dropping. Then exhale and turn the ribs to the right, lifting your pelvic floor. And inhale, come back to the center. Exhale and turn the other way. Inhale, come back to center, making sure that you have the pelvic floor muscles lifting, the shoulders dropping. Repeat this movement in your own time, working with your own breath. Exhaling to turn and inhaling to return to the center. You might work slowly, you might work quickly, as long as you're thinking about rotating the ribs, keeping your hips still, and coming back to the center and being a little bit longer. The seated twist is for mobility of the thoracic spine. And stability of the pelvis. Come to a sitting position now with your feet flat down on the floor. Hip width apart, knees hip width apart, and place the ball just behind you. Sit up tall, lift the pelvic floor, and then roll off your sitting bones so you create a curve, and then inhale and sit back up tall again. Again, work at your own pace, feeling yourself melt from the bottom, sinking down. And inhale and lifting back up. So working now for mobility in the lumbar spine. Exhaling to tip the pelvis back, inhaling to come back up. Imagine that your pelvis is a bowl of water and you're wanting to tip the water out of the back of the bowl and then scoop the water back up again. Check to make sure that your feet are always firmly planted on the floor and that you don't sink into your chest, that you keep your shoulders back and down, your neck long. Now take the ball around between your hands and roll all the way down to the floor, one vertebra at a time, leaving an impression of your spine on the mat. And then bring your heels a little bit closer to your bottom. Take the ball down beside you. And just tip your pelvis forward and back until you find a space where the hip bones and the pubic bone are level. Move your head around until you feel a long neck, the back of the head on the floor. Lift up the muscles of your pelvic floor and then float your right foot up until the knee is above the hip. Inhale and lower it back down. Then exhale, float the other leg up. And inhale, lower it back down. You're aiming to float the legs up without rolling the hips side to side. So if you had a marble sitting on your belly between your hip bones, it wouldn't be rolling from one hip to the other. It would be sitting in the middle. Again, work at your own speed, working with your breath. Then take the ball, squeeze a bit of air out of the ball. Roll to one side and place it underneath your sacrum. Not in the curve of the back, just below the curve of the back. Then tip your pelvis back and forward again until you find a spot where your hip bones and your pubic bone are level, a neutral pelvis, but it's slightly different to when you were lying on the floor. And then repeat your leg floats again, exhaling to lift, inhaling to lower. Relax your jaw, relax your shoulders. And again, keep your marble between your two hips. For more challenge, lift your arms up off the floor, reducing your base of support. For more of a challenge, when you lift your leg, arms are up above the shoulder. And when you lower your leg, the arms come overhead. And then take them down. Take the ball away. Roll back to a neutral pelvis, feet hip width apart, and repeat the leg floats. And observe if it's any easier. Does your back feel more stable on the floor? Is it easier to stop your hips rolling side to side? Is there less effort? Make the next repetition the last one. And then reassess your posture on the floor. Is your pelvic floor still lifting? Do you have a neutral pelvis? Then tip your pelvis back and begin to peel yourself up off the floor, lifting the tailbone, curling up until you reach a point where your knees, hips and shoulders are level. And then lower yourself back down to the floor, one vertebra at a time, until you're back on the floor with a neutral pelvis. And inhale. Lift the pelvic floor, exhale. Peel yourself up off the floor, one vertebra at a time, until you're up on your shoulders. Inhale at the top, and then exhale and lower yourself back down again, one vertebra at a time, until you're back on the floor with a neutral pelvis. Take care when you get to the top that you don't let the ribs pop up in the air, that the ribs are always funneling down towards the waist. Then place the ball again under the small of the back. Tip your pelvis back and forward. And repeat the shoulder bridge, peeling yourself up off the floor, one vertebra at a time, pressing down into the ball first, pushing it towards the heels, peeling yourself up, inhaling at the top, exhaling and lowering yourself back down again, one vertebra at a time, until you're back on the ball with a neutral pelvis. Press down into the ball, peel yourself up, one vertebra at a time. Inhale at the top, and then exhale and lower yourself back down, one vertebra at a time, until you're back on the floor with a neutral pelvis. Take the ball away. Lower yourself back down to the floor. And repeat the shoulder bridge. And just observe if it feels any different now. Making sure your shoulders are away from your ears, the back of the neck long. Working for mobility of the spine and stability of the pelvis. Now lengthen your legs out along the floor. Turn your palms up. And imagine that you're lying in damp sand and leaving an impression of yourself in the sand. Mapping yourself, mapping your legs, seeing how they contact the floor. Mapping your arms, how do they contact the floor? How does your back feel on the floor, the back of the head? Observe the negative spaces. Do you feel as if your legs are evenly placed on the floor? Feet dropping out the same amount? Or does one feel slightly different to the other? Connect with your breath. Observe if it's a deep breath right down into the belly, or if it's a shallow breath up into the top of the ribcage. There's no need to change anything, just observe. And take your ball, bend your knees, roll to one side and place the ball underneath your sacrum again. Take it to a position where it's very easy to tip the pelvis forward or to tip the pelvis back. And then tip your pelvis back, tip your pelvis forward, releasing tension in the lower back. And just observe, is it easier to tip it back or is it easier to tip it forward? Is it a smooth action or is it tight and stiff?